Welcome to our video exploring the critical differences between a 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures. As we delve into the top 10 impacts of these temperature thresholds, we'll examine how even a seemingly small increase can lead to significant changes in our climate and environment. From intensified heatwaves and sea level rise to the fate of coral reefs and biodiversity, understanding these consequences is essential for our future. Join us as we uncover the stark realities of climate change and why it matters for all of us. 1. Heat waves. With a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase, extreme heat waves would affect around 14% of the global population annually. This may seem manageable, but it still represents millions of people who could face serious health risks. Heat waves are not just uncomfortable, they can lead to health crises, overwhelming hospitals and healthcare systems. As temperatures climb to 2 degrees Celsius, the impact becomes even more alarming. At this level, 37% of the population could experience intense heat waves, doubling the number of people affected. Such a scenario could lead to increased mortality rates and exacerbate existing inequalities, as vulnerable populations often lack the means to cope with extreme heat. 2. Sea level rise. A global temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius could cause sea levels to rise by 0.26 to 0.77 meters by 2100. This may sound modest, but even this range poses significant risks to coastal communities. Flooding, erosion, and the loss of habitable land are just a few challenges that could arise. In contrast, a 2 degrees Celsius rise could lead to sea levels increasing by 0.3 to 0.93 meters. This difference might not seem drastic, but the consequences are profound. Entire communities could be displaced, and low-lying islands might become uninhabitable, triggering mass migrations and geopolitical tensions. 3. Arctic ice loss. The Arctic is often seen as the canary in the coal mine for climate change. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, the region might experience one ice-free summer per century. While this is concerning, it still allows for some stability in polar ecosystems. However, at 2 degrees Celsius, the frequency of ice-free summers could jump to once per decade. This shift would have dire consequences for wildlife, including polar bears and seals, which rely on the ice for survival. The loss of Arctic ice also contributes to global warming, as ice reflects sunlight, whereas open water absorbs it, creating a vicious cycle. 4. Coral reefs. Coral reefs are among the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth. A 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise puts 70 to 90% of coral reefs at risk of dying. This loss would devastate marine biodiversity and affect millions of people who rely on reefs for food and tourism. At 2 degrees Celsius, the outlook is even bleaker, with more than 99% of coral reefs likely to be lost. The disappearance of these vibrant underwater worlds would not only affect marine life but also the livelihoods of coastal communities and the natural protection reefs provide against storm surges. 5. Biodiversity loss. Biodiversity is essential for ecosystem resilience and human well-being. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, around 6% of insects, 8% of plants, and 4% of vertebrates could lose half their habitat. This loss would disrupt ecosystems and food webs, with consequences that ripple across the globe. As temperatures rise to 2 degrees Celsius, these figures increase dramatically to 18% of insects, 16% of plants, and 8% of vertebrates. Such biodiversity loss could lead to the collapse of ecosystems, affecting everything from pollination to water purification, and ultimately human survival. 6. Ocean acidification. Ocean acidification, caused by increased CO2 absorption, is a silent but severe consequence of global warming. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, acidification rates slow slightly, giving some marine ecosystems a chance to adapt. However, at 2 degrees Celsius, the situation worsens significantly. Higher acidification disrupts marine food chains, threatening fisheries and the livelihoods of coastal communities. Species like shellfish and coral, which rely on calcium carbonate, are particularly vulnerable. The loss of these species could have cascading effects on marine biodiversity and human economies. 7. Extreme weather events. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and severe due to climate change. A 1.5 degrees Celsius rise could lead to a 50% increase in droughts, storms, and heavy rainfall events. These changes would strain infrastructure, agriculture, and emergency services. At 2 degrees Celsius, the likelihood and intensity of these events double, particularly impacting vulnerable regions. Communities that are already struggling with poverty and lack of resources would be hit hardest, leading to increased displacement and humanitarian crises. 8. Food security. Food security is a critical concern as global temperatures rise. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, crop yields for staples like wheat and maize could decline by 10%. This decrease might not seem substantial, but it could significantly impact global food supply and prices. A 2 degrees Celsius rise would exacerbate the situation, with yield losses reaching 15 to 20%. Such a decline would increase hunger and malnutrition, particularly in developing countries where agriculture is a primary livelihood. The resulting food scarcity could lead to social unrest and conflict over resources. 9. Water scarcity. Water scarcity is a pressing issue that will worsen with climate change. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, around 350 million people could face water shortages. This scarcity would impact agriculture, industry, and daily life, leading to increased competition for resources. At 2 degrees Celsius, the number of people affected rises to 410 million, with severe impacts in already dry regions. Water shortages could lead to conflicts and displacement, as communities struggle to access this vital resource. The situation calls for urgent measures to improve water management and conservation. 10. Human health. Bentonville, known for its economic growth, also deals with occasional strong winds. The city promotes sustainable building practices, including the use of wind-resistant materials, to ensure the safety of its structures. Residents are kept informed about severe weather safety protocols, ensuring that everyone knows how to stay safe during high wind events. These initiatives have created a community that can thrive despite the challenges posed by Arkansas's windy conditions.